Hello, I want to talk about something that I referenced in my last video, and that is safety at UChicago, because my last vlog was on Tuesday of last week, and on that day, we received 3 security alerts. First, that shots were fired, no injuries on like a street 2 blocks north of campus. Then later we also got news that there was a bomb threat. It ended up being a hoax, so everything was okay. And we also got word that a UChicago student who just graduated was shot and killed 1 block north of campus. I didn't know the victim personally, but it was still a difficult email to receive. So I can't even imagine what it must be like right now for everyone who did know him. And understandably, campus has been very weird since then. The social media pages for the student body, where people have conversations and discussions, have been just inundated with opinions and arguments and very politically charged discussions on the safety issue at UChicago, and I guess that's why I'm making this video, is to kind of put my 2 cents in. I will say right now, though, I'm not going to go into the political matters of this conversation because I don't think that this is the time or place for it. While that's definitely an important discussion to have, I don't want to have that on here. I'm mostly making this video as, I guess, a resource for prospective students who, like me, coming to this campus, were maybe thinking about safety and how safe is this campus actually, especially in light of what's been happening recently. So everything I talk about in here is entirely my opinion only. I definitely am not speaking for the university. I'm not speaking for students at the university, not anyone here except for just me. And obviously I've only been here 2 quarters last year and 1 quarter this year, so I am 100% not an expert on this matter. I'm an introvert, I'm in my dorm a lot, so I don't go out, I don't experience things very often. I'm hardly the person to be saying definitively if UChicago is safe or not, so that's why I just want to make it clear that this is just how I've experienced campus, and this is just how I feel about it. I also don't want this video to be a discourse on solutions to security issues. I'm more so just kind of putting this out to give information about what I know and how I feel about it. I'm going to start with a pretty general question, and that's basically how safe in general do I feel when I'm on campus? Walking around, walking to class, walking a little bit off campus. And the short answer is I have always felt safe. I mean, there are times when I've let my imagination wander and, if there's someone walking behind me, I'll think oh my gosh, are they following me? But I have never been in any situations that have made me feel threatened or in jeopardy. And I know this is not true for a lot of students here. I have heard many, many, many people say they have been in at least one situation where they do not feel safe. And the thing is that does come in being a big city. Obviously, if you put yourself in an urban area, you are going to have more safety issues than you are if you go to someplace rural. That being said, I myself haven't experienced anything like that, but the reality is this isn't a question of whether or not you feel safe on campus. It's a question of whether it is safe on campus, and recent events have proven that it isn't. 3 UChicago students in 1 year have been shot and killed, and I've received in my time at UChicago about 24-ish security alert emails. This includes armed robberies, shots being fired, that sort of thing. And I think one issue with how safe campus feels is that it's kind of normalized. We'll get an email about an armed robbery, and then 5 hours later I'll have a class that's 1 block from there. And even though it's fine, it was fine, ends up being fine and everything, I don't know, it just almost feels very run-of-the-mill now when we get an email like that, which is a bit disconcerting, because obviously there is going to be some of that expected because we are in a city. But I don't know, it's just gotten to the point where I feel like it's beyond normal, and I guess that's what feels like the biggest safety issue for me, is that it's pretty frequent. So another thing I want to address about safety is the deception regarding it, and by that I mean when I was a prospective student, I was told that basically as long as you are walking not at nighttime alone with earbuds in or not flaunting your wealth, as long as you're making smart decisions, you're going to be fine. Both of the shootings that happened last week on Tuesday were middle of the afternoon. And then the armed robbery that happened a couple of days later after that last week, that was in the morning. So it's not something that's just happening at 1 a.m., this is happening during the daytime. And understandably, crime has risen recently because of COVID. So, if you asked this question a couple of years ago, I think that campus was safer. So in defense of people who will tell you that campus is 100% safe, I do think that there is some truth to that statement because of how campus was a couple of years back when violence was definitely lower. I guess one thing that just came to my attention was I was researching security and safety for UChicago, and I'll put up a screenshot here in the video, but the first page that came up for me said that the University of Chicago's campus is one of the safest. I don't know how many schools have this many armed robberies and deaths in one year, and I expect that they do not all have as many as this does. So I guess just for me, knowing that other prospective students, like I myself once was, are looking at this page and seeing, okay, it's one of the safest, they'll come here believing that there are no safety issues, and yes, there are. I'm not saying that you're going to come here and you're going to be robbed. I'm not saying you're going to come here and you're going to get hurt. I'm just saying it is, like, statistically less safe than if you go someplace like a Cornell that's in the middle of nowhere. So I guess the main thing is people will say that this is completely safe, and yes, there are a lot of safety measures, which I will be talking about in a second. I just want to say right now that coming to the University of Chicago, the normal advice to stay safe that I just was mentioning, like don't walk with earbuds in, for example, don't be like wearing really expensive clothing while walking out, or don't go out late at night, walk in groups. That kind of advice isn't really applying to the University of Chicago anymore because these risks have occurred despite this advice. Another issue I have is the advice just like don't go off campus, because I think that's just a really unreasonable tip to give. I don't go off campus very much, but I have gone off campus. I've walked to the lake, I've walked north of campus, and when I did, it did feel safe. I went with a friend. I don't think I would go alone, but the bottom line is that the advice, just don't go off campus, it doesn't make any sense because so many upperclassmen live off campus and they have to commute all the time. Faculty have to commute. So to say that, like, as long as you just don't stray into this area, this area, this area, this area, that's just like, it's kind of impossible. Like, you don't just live in one solitary place while you're here. You're in the community. I don't know. I just don't like when people say, like, oh, as long as you do this, you'll be fine. Because that's just not going to happen. Sorry, my fridge just turned on, so you might be hearing that in the background. But I also want to talk about like the safety measures that are actually in at UChicago, because I do want to make it clear that there are resources here to help with safety. And there's like, I have a list here, but it's like there's a dean on call support, you can sign up for emergency notifications, there are security officers standing on the sidewalks, there's a blue light system, like all colleges, when you go on the tours, they show you that there are blue light systems where you can go press the button if you feel unsafe. And you can also request a safety escort. There are self-defense classes. There's a variety of ways that you can have these security things at UChicago, but there's also been a lot of controversy because of the Lyft program that was put in, which basically allows you free Lyft rides on the weekends from like 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. And because of recent events last week, it's now been expanded to 7 days a week. And also the security alerts that they send out to everyone through email. These we often don't receive until a couple of hours after the event has transpired. So that's another thing, like, you might be walking around and then 2 hours get an email that something happened where you were. So that's another thing about the safety here. Now I just want to get like down to the fundamental question, is the University of Chicago safe? Again, this is a very, very subjective question, and I don't have all the answers. I don't have the answer. I just have my opinion. But I guess my thought is that when 3 students are killed in 1 year and you've got all the other students on campus pretty freaked out, like a lot of people have been talking about this, it's scary. And when you have these like pages on Facebook, for example, just blowing up about, discussions on the UCPD and, why these events are happening, I would say no, relative to other colleges, it's not that safe. This is not normal. I don't think it should be normal. Obviously, the campus is subject to the same risks that every other big city faces. No matter where you are, you're not going to be immune to safety risks, whether that's in a small town, a big town. Big cities do have more risks. Definitely there are other colleges in this country that are in big cities and are subject to the same safety risks that we are. Like, no college in a big city is going to be immune to that. So if you're considering coming here, or if you're considering transferring, whatever it is, if you're thinking about whether or not like you want to come here because of the safety, honestly, that's a question only you can answer. If you feel like it's not going to affect you very much, like if you feel like it's not going to affect your mental health, or you're studying, if you think you'll be fine going here, then definitely come here, because obviously, like, I'm not transferring. I'm still here. I still love this school. I love this place. I love the people, I love the community. But if you think that, like, coming here, these safety issues are really going to negatively impact you and you're going to be very stressed and you don't think you'll venture out much into Chicago, then maybe, like, this isn't the best place for you to come to. I don't want to speak too much about this because I only want to, like, inform of my opinion and really no more than that. So I guess this is all I wanted to say on the subject, and I just wanted to kind of show what I've been thinking about this recently, and also just what the safety is like at the University of Chicago. I hope that this is helpful if you've been concerned about this. If you're a parent watching this and you're concerned, I hope that maybe it makes you feel a little bit better, because like I myself haven't been in any dangerous situations. I guess I just hope this helps. So stay safe, everyone.